us on Season 6, Episode 15, where we watch Baking Impossible, Season 1, Episode 1, where you find your boat at the bottom of the creek. I'm Chris Lorenz.
We all ate and built with Legos as a kid, and now we're building and eating with actual stuff. This is Brian.
This is that a pie? No, a Ethan Bunt cake.
Man, I really am dropping the ball here. I was not prepared for this, but this is James.
Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, we watch a different reality show each week, discussing a minute detail, figuring if that's good or bad. What do you watch this week, Noah?
This week, we watch Baking Impossible on Netflix. Teams consisting of one baker and one engineer design a bake creations that are both delicious and made to survive intense engineering stress tests. That's Baking Impossible on Netflix.
Thank you, Noah. This is a Netflix show. It's standard competition show, 9 teams. And tell me what the goal of the show, Brian, is.
The goal of this show was to copy the success of Lego Masters. But the real goal of this show...
It is pretty much Lego Masters. But it is also kind of a combination of some sort of like Halloween baking challenge thing where they had like multiple disciplines come in. And you were like kind of a team.
Yeah, like
There was a lot of shit. There are a lot of ancestors to this show.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not breaking any ground, but it is kind of interesting because it's very engineer focused, whereas a lot of these other shows not very engineer focused.
right. They're bringing that like extra discipline of like, how can we push the limit of like what you're going to make? Like you've done like creative stuff, you've done tasty stuff. Now it's like functional stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about Mission 1, and I think that'll alleviate some of the talking points here. So Mission gives you a good idea of what the show's about. Mm-hmm. So Mission 1, they have to make a sailboat out of all like edible goods. So it has to be an edible sailboat, and it has to go down a like track of 2 feet.
20 feet.
That wasn't 20 feet, dude.
It's 20 feet.
Okay. All right. 20 feet.
The boats are about a foot, 2 feet long.
Okay. 20 feet with wind at 7 knots. So they had to have a sail and they have to have a rudder to like, guide the boat. In 45 seconds, they have to go down this track. So like there's right here, just making an edible boat that does this is pretty intense. But then they had to make like a baking dish afterward, like that goes on top of the boat that gets also judged, which I wish at the beginning of this episode they told us, but at the end we find out that it's ranked on a pass fail for 3 categories: baking, engineering, and baconeering.
The show, the word of the show.
Brian, what is baconeering and what does that have to do with bacon?
Baconeering is the cross between baking and engineering, coined by one of the judges.
I've got Andrew Smith.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
He was like really creative and like trying out like different things, like trying to mix everything together. And then he's just like, well, this is baking and engineering. I'm just going to combine these 2 words and be a genius. Boom.
He's the original baconeer, as he claims.
I mean, when you get to invent your own title, that's pretty awesome.
I mean, you can invent any title you want, Brian.
I don't know if I can. I don't think if you, like I set up like Play-Doh Master, like it's gonna be as respectable as baconeer.
You could definitely be the Platoneer if you want to be.
Still doesn't sound.
I don't
awesome.
know what that is, but you can be it.
Well, all right, I'm gonna try to be it. Gonna go on Amazon right now, get some Play-Doh.
While you can create any title you want, it's a lot more difficult to get it to catch on. And
I'm not sure this is catching on. He just got a whole Netflix show.
But so Andrew Smith though, he's in the BCU, the Baking Cinematic Universe. He was a finalist on the Great British Bake Off.
Oh, did he have to make a boat there too?
Uncertain, but that seemed to be like his like touching off point, right? So he went to Oxford to be an aerospace engineer. Then he's a finalist on the Great British Bake Off. And so, like, he's got these things that people are really interested in, right? Like, and he's kind of catapulted from there.
And then he's a social media influencer making weird shit.
He's doing okay. He's got 51,000 on the twits.
On the twits. Everyone
on the
knows what the
twits.
twits is.
Yeah, about 100,000 on the Insta. So he's doing okay.
I mean, he's obviously a social media influencer that makes baconeering stuff, and people follow him. Like that's it.
I think he coined the term though.
Obviously, we just talked that he coined the term.
I mean, we don't know that he coined it, but he definitely owns
He
it.
claimed that he coined it
Well, then he
in
probably
the show.
We need to find it in the trademark office, and we also need to figure out how many times that hashtag has been used.
I want to see how many times
Well-
Disney has sued this guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but to Chris's point or Chris's question, which went unanswered, it has nothing to do with bacon, as in the meat.
Yeah,
No.
right. Every
It's
time he says
infuriating.
this, I'm like, "They're baconers? Are they making bacon? Are we curing some meat on this show? Are we killing some pigs?"
Yeah, without the G at the end, like it really turns a different meaning.
Right? I'm just like, "Where's the bacon?" Every time.
Like, who's making bacon? Nobody's making bacon.
I mean, there could be bacon.
There was no bacon.
There was no
Not
bacon.
in this one, but maybe
No.
later. You can bake
Yeah.
bacon.
All right. Let's talk about the host here. Got Justin Tillman.
Willman.
I wrote down Tillman, so
Do you want to roll with it?
no. Noah, can you tell us more about our host?
Yeah, I actually like Justin Willman. He's a magician. He is a quite good magician. Who had his own Netflix specials himself. I actually saw one of his Zoom things during the pandemic. He has his comedic side, so they put him in this host position. I was very shocked they did not leverage his magic because he's very good at magic.
So is he part of the Netflix cinematic universe?
It seems like this is his shot. You know, is he gonna be on the rotation? You know.
This is definitely a cost-saving feature to just reuse people from other shows.
I mean, it's definitely trying to build like a Netflix brand for sure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But
Who else
yeah,
it also
Yeah.
save money.
Who else have they done this with?
like all the hosts are like people. The announcers of Netflix shows are usually in another Netflix show.
Really? They got a rotation going.
Yeah, usually when we're watching these things, like, oh yeah, he was in some of
They've
those.
certainly done it with like the contestants. Like we've already seen that, like including like their current like audition thing. It's just select a bunch of things that you're going to audition for, and then go for it. And they've started like shuffling people around different shows too.
There's no one that we're aware of that was in any other show.
Yeah, there was.
In this show,
No, not in this show. Sorry,
Yeah.
but like in other reality shows.
yeah,
But
we're
like,
talking about this show, Brian.
Sorry.
There were people that got confused.
I thought we got into the Netflix cinematic universe. NCU.
That was just kind of a joke. We don't really need to
it definitely
get
exists.
too-
It's not a joke.
But I don't like.
it exists.
I think you might have to go in the corner. I don't know if I want to corner this, but like, who else is in this rotation? I don't know if there's someone. that is.
well, we'll get back to you on that later. We don't have time for that right now.
No time.
But he had some pretty bad jokes in this show. Like, I did not particularly enjoy his hosting at all.
I mean, they're not his jokes.
Yeah, I know they're not his joke. I get it. They won't. I'm sure they have some writers that wrote some quips about these boats, and they weren't very good.
Yeah.
I feel like the move that they pulled was the show, as producers realized that it wasn't landing and it wasn't funny, and they just sort of, every time it sort of happened, they just showed like a close up with some silence of like people's awkward reactions to the bad jokes. And I feel like in hindsight, it was actually okay because I felt like they were acknowledging it, like, okay, we know these jokes kind of suck. So like rather than do like a wonky sound or whatever, we're just gonna be like we're leaning into it.
There's definitely some tongue in cheek with editors here. I think a little bit, but that doesn't mean the jokes weren't bad.
The jokes were definitely bad. They didn't land.
Like, yeah.
It landed flat.
I thought it was par for the course for this type of show.
It's
Yeah.
par being terrible.
Like,
Like, awful.
to me,
No,
the
but,
jokes
like-
were not distracting. Like they weren't so bad; they were distracting. They weren't so good that they're memorable. It just kind of like keeps the train moving.
I guess to my own point though, like, would it have been better if they didn't like pause? Because I feel like that pause also like made me really observe. I'm like, man, this is painful. Let's move it along. I almost wonder if like just keep it moving. I don't know which way it goes.
You could
better.
just cut them.
That's what I'm saying.
You
Well,
don't even need to tell us the joke.
well, but to Noah's
just cut
point,
it.
it's kind of like filler, right?
They don't need any filler in the show.
They gotta fill
There
like
was, like,
45 minutes out.
There's 3 teams in the show we didn't even see.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like, you don't need to add terrible jokes to your show. Unless the thing is, I think here is that Netflix has that awful Nailed It show, and like that's their shtick is terrible jokes.
Emmy
So maybe-
nominated.
Shut
Nailed
up.
It show.
I'm well aware, and I think that people need to be fired over that. But So like they might be just leaning into the shtick that people love bad jokes, and here we are saying that we hate bad jokes, and I think that is really sensitive because like if we're looking at other hosts of similar shows, we're looking at Making It with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman, like it's like top tier hosts here. You've got the Lego Show, you got Will Arnett. Like he's actually adding to the show. This person is detracting from the show. It's not like
that's a stretch.
I think so.
They're not helping the show.
I don't. I think he is just neutral. I agree that you talked about the best host, and the only other good host was on that dating show, the woman comedian. It wasn't Eliza Schlesinger.
Yeah. I know what show you're talking about.
Yeah,
it was the F Boy Island.
Yeah, F Boy Island hosts, right? Those are, I think, like the 4 top hosts we've ever seen. I don't expect a show to meet there because they are the top.
Yeah, but like the thing is, this is the Lego Show, as Brian has told you. That it's essentially the Lego Show, slightly different. So I'm comparing him to Will Arnett, and Will Arnett makes some bad jokes, but he really digs into it.
He costs a lot more money.
Yeah, so that's
what do you mean? So
when you crib from the Lego Show, you get compared to the Lego Show.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a fine choice.
All right, that's fine. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. All right. So you got the host. Who's judging folks?
So we got Andrew Smith, the original Baconaire. We talked about him. Yeah. Then we got Dr. O. I didn't write down his last name because it was really weird. He's
Hakeem Alabuji.
I'm very proud of you for attempting that. He's a rocket scientist, so he's like judging the engineering, and Andrew was judging the baconeering. A lot of bacon. And then we've got Joanne Chang. She is the baker and judges all the baking. She's a pretty tough judge. Like there was no dessert that she said only positive things about. Every single dessert that she said something like, "Oh, you could use more of this," or like even the winner of this episode, she was like, "Yeah, that was really good," but something like I don't remember what it was.
Yeah. Quick correction on my part because I thought I remembered his name correctly. I wasn't reading it. It's Al-Osei. Hakeem Al-Osei.
Yeah, that's why we just went with Dr. O. But
it's not that difficult of a last name.
Yeah, but it was on screen for like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I went back in the corner.
Yeah, okay.
I try to remember it.
Yeah, you did your research. Chris is like rolling off the cuff.
Justin Tillman, that football guy hosting the show.
Okay.
Pat Tillman?
Pat Tillman. Yeah, there we go.
Should we go over the contestants we saw and what their boats were and how everything turned out?
Oh, we got to get into these boats.
Okay.
That's the whole fun.
Let's dive in. Let's go below deck.
So we got Joey. He's a baker. And we got Mario, the engineer. I can't say it like the host does.
Mario?
No, he says it with like a weird like accent.
Yeah, but he does the short A. Mario.
Yeah. They did they're like very New York City. They're from New York City, it seems.
Well, one of them, it irks me. So I'm from Long Island. He's from Belmore, which is not in New York City. Yet he claims to be from New York City. And just, come on.
That happens for like people from Jersey too. So
terrible.
They do like a fantasy boat with like they got like blinking eyes and like they did some cool engineering things. Except their boat was kind of stout, and that thing just sank right away.
Oh yeah. That started off a good little montage of boat failures.
So fast.
This was the one that was kind of like a chocolatey boat with like the red eyes. Is that this one?
Yeah. It was the Viking style.
The red eyes looked really cool on the like dragon thing.
Looked really cool. They even did a water test while they were doing it, and like water got in the chocolate and like started seeping into the Rice Krispie treats they were using, and it was falling apart then. And they did not fix their boat at all.
No.
Well, I think they tried to, which is an interesting part of the show. Like the hull is like the whole thing of this thing. Yeah. You really got to design a good hull shape for your boat. A lot of different boat designs and terms getting tossed around that I hadn't known about.
Some catamarans.
I mean, a catamaran was a lot easier. There was like the monohull, I think. That was a thing.
Like the monohull, aka a regular boat.
Yeah, just a single boat. There was other ones too, but I can't recall.
Yeah, there was like one where they like the winner had some terms for his like boat design that no one else had, and there was some sailing boat terms that I didn't write down.
Oh, 100%.
Because this was like a sailing challenge. You had to
Yeah.
make a sailing boat, essentially. You really just needed a boat that didn't sink, and you were on the next round.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the boat at least floated, I think you're looking decent. I guess you would. Well, it was pass fail though, right?
Yeah, so like there are 3 categories. So if you focused on one category, and like baking is a nebulous category, so you shouldn't focus on that. So you should focus on the engineering category.
Or baconeering.
But like,
Isn't it the same thing? Like, I don't know. What's the difference between baconeering and the engineering category?
mean, you need,
how
like-
edible your boat was, maybe.
So here's my guess. They do not describe this in the show. This is us totally trying to infer what the hell's happening. My guess is you have baking. That is the taste and the texture mixture of like purely forget the engineering. This is kind of cool on its own. You have the engineering, and I think that's very much the like your angles. Did you take physics into account? Did you take chemistry into account? Right, like all the sciences.
A lot of talk about center of mass.
Yeah.
For example.
Baconeering, my guess here is how well did you use your tools, and the tools here being the different foods, to accomplish your engineering.
I see. So it's more from design. How did you incorporate design and adjust with the baking materials and all this sort of thing?
That's my hunch.
It's
It's
the
like, right,
combo.
it's the materials to accomplish the end goal.
Yeah, it's really just how well you use the food to accomplish engineering. Like, if somebody made a terrible boat, but it kind of worked, that was like good baconeering. But if you made like a real boat, like with better engine, like you made a real sailboat, but with food, then you like that's better engineering because you've like used the math and like
Mhm.
done all that stuff. I don't know.
Like,
Seems a little nebulous.
that's my guess.
It's
No,
a little weird.
They don't describe it.
There's kind of like 2 categories, and there's weird like overall or like impression category. It seems like.
Yeah, it seems like it's just an overall category.
It's really Andrew's opinion.
Well, it's weird because the baking category is based on the dessert on top.
Well, it just has to ride in the boat. Doesn't have to necessarily be on top. And we also know like there's probably gonna be different challenges. They're not all gonna be boat challenges.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like this particular challenge.
This particular
was a
challenge,
boat. The dessert had to be riding on a top or in the boat in some sort of fashion.
yeah, but they didn't actually have to taste. Like
Hmm.
the boat didn't have to be edible.
Right. Nobody's
It
tasting
had to
the
be
actual boat.
quote unquote edible.
Yeah, the thing was like you're not gonna have like serious like materials that like won't be edible. Like you can eat it, but it's not gonna be tasty.
Well, but certain teams did make their boats more edible than others, like of
Yeah.
the materials, right? Like certain teams, like I think some of the teams that did better were really going on about like, hey, like the only things that aren't edible on this boat are like 2 things, like the servos, which is like the little engine thing or
Oh,
motor,
yeah, that was
Yeah.
part of the challenge.
and like some wires, and they're like, aside from that, everything's edible, and I thought that was impressive.
And
Yeah.
like a lot of the boats I would eat, like chocolate Rice Krispie treats, I'm gonna eat that.
Sounds
Solid
great.
chocolate boat, great.
But
Maybe that hard dough or whatever that was, like
Well,
not
well,
so much.
yeah, the winning boat, not eating that. That did not
No.
look good.
With-
They made some sort of like cake, but without any flour, and I forget what they called it.
dead dough,
Dead
Dead dough,
dough.
that's what it
Yeah,
was.
that
That was a new
doesn't.
term.
That didn't look very tasty.
No,
but the boat looked amazing. It was really colorful and like
Yeah, yeah.
whimsical and like, or not whimsical, like fairy tale, like kind of esque, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I feel like the past
fantasy.
the pass failness of this really like you should lose some points for like that like boat definitely just being like not edible.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah.
edible, but it's not edible.
So that would be like baconeering.
Maybe I don't know,
I think because that's
but it's the baking.
Yeah.
It's like the tasty part of the like.
but that wasn't the tasty part, which I have an issue with this challenge, how separated the baking and engineering were in this. It's like they were not even related. It's like now just bake something that tastes good, plop it on top. Like it was 2 different challenges.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
That-
people did get sort of bonus points, or the judges spoke positively about the ones that like it was part of the theme. For example, there was one boat that was kind of like a pirate boat,
Yeah.
and it was I think the hull was largely cased in some sort of chocolate or something like dark, looked like wood, whatever. And then on the boat was these chocolate cannons. Chocolate is oversimplifying. I don't know all of the proper terms. It was like a
Ganache.
There was
ganache
some
and
ganache
Yeah.
and there's some pistachio or something in there.
Pistachio flavor, yeah.
yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and that actually like worked really well. The judges A, thought it tasted really good, but then B, they're like, we love how like you incorporated it as part of the design. It didn't stand out from the boat. It blended in. It added to it. So you
I
know,
was disappointed that they weren't judging the creations based on taste as well. Like, to me, that's like part of the thing. Like, it should have been like a critical part of the baconeered piece. Should be like, yeah, try this.
take a hunk off of that sail and eat it.
Exactly, right?
It could just
I-
be challenge 1. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think that like you just can't do that. Like if you're trying to build something that's functional, you're not necessarily like you can't go for like flavors and stuff like that. Like,
That's why it's a challenge.
it's just gonna be so narrow that like you're also gonna get like 8 or 9 of the same design, and maybe
I mean-
one person who's just like gonna go, I'm gonna go rogue.
The
and
real
fail.
thing here is that we saw 2 boats complete the challenge. So there's not like you don't need to differentiate that much based on how the boat actually tastes.
Right, but like that was
Yeah.
also the thing. Like if everybody was like less risky about that and just wanted to go with like
No,
a theme,
these
like, you
people
would get 8 or 9 of those boats.
definitely didn't do this challenge right. You're on this challenge. The only thing you should have been focused on was getting your boat to fucking float.
Yeah,
100%.
That's
true.
it. Like, who cares about anything else? Get that thing to float. If the thing doesn't float, you failed immediately. That is your main focus.
I mean, reality is, though, if you think about the eating portion they made comparatively to the boat they made, I think like 9/10 of their time was in the baconeering. Like,
Some teams seem to be much more focused on it than others.
maybe I'm even just thinking of like what they presented. None of them were over the top. Where like I think they spent maybe not 90%, maybe 75% of the time like was definitely in the bacon.
I mean, we talked about Mario and Joey. Like, if they put that boat in that little test scenario, it would have sunk immediately. They clearly didn't do it. They clearly were more focused on like making it look pretty, which is fine, but didn't like they almost got kicked out because their thing just like didn't even attempt to like float.
No.
Which was strange because, like, in the show, like, they show them making these things, right? And, like, they start from the way the show's presented. They kind of have some whiteboards or giant computer screens, whatever, that are with whiteboards on it. They're kind of drawing up the designs. They're discussing it. They're, like, figuring out their materials. Like, hey, like, what's going to be buoyant? Like, how are we going to get this thing to float? How are we going to seal it? We got to be waterproof, blah, blah, blah. Then they kind of get to, like, the next phase and they start making their initial hulls. And then, like, some of the teams, like, at least 2 of them took it to, like, a little kiddie pool and, like, you know, kind of tested it, which I thought was key. I can't believe that like half the boats just straight sank immediately. They clearly didn't test or something happened.
They definitely didn't test like their final thing. Like they probably tested like
Right.
throughout the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening a lot was the stuff that they put on top, the desserts and everything. Like then that just made it top heavy. And of course, like at that point, you just kind of want to go for it because if you fail, then it's like shit. I gotta panic and repair this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump to something because I just have a great idea. I gotta say it, and we're gonna just go back. When someone gets eliminated from the show, they gotta say you're baconated and then be sponsored by Wendy's.
I think they want to drive away from the bacon part of. All right, let's talk about the next contestant. Let's talk about Sierra and Edwin. Sierra's the baker and Edwin's the engineer. They were going to make a catamaran with Rice Krispies, and then they had to pivot because they made a fucking giant Rice Krispie boat that the producers were like,
Terrible.
"You realize our thing's only like 4 feet wide or 3 feet wide, and their catamaran would have been like 6 feet wide or
Terrible.
something terrible." So they had to go to a monohull. At some point, Edwin was like, I give our boat like 50-50 chance.
That
And
it'll
that-
float.
that
That
it'll
it'll
float.
float.
And immediately you put this in the water, it just flips, cracked in half, and the cake came off the boat.
Like I will give it to the engineering piece. Like the catamaran was probably going to be the most successful of the boats if they could actually like, get it in there.
Yes.
But
When they removed half the catamaran, so now you have the monohull though, it just immediately became apparent that the flaw in their hull design, right? Which is you have this giant hull that is all like one block.
Yep.
Which is relatively light because it's Rice Krispie treat. And then on top, you put a cake. So the cake is clearly heavier, and this is where they go on and on about center of mass. But the quick and dirty is too much weight on top. It's going to flip that boat over because it's floating, and it sinks.
Yeah. I don't even know if that Rice Krispie block itself would have done anything. I think that would have just flipped by itself.
Which again, I think if you do stick to the catamaran design, you have two of them attached to each other.
Yeah.
It won't
I think
flip.
the catamaran
It would
design
have been
would have
super
worked fine.
buoyant.
Yeah. Maybe they should have like cut that Rice Krispie treat into the catamaran.
I don't understand why they made it so big, and then they're just like, let's pivot. I don't understand why they had to pivot. Did they run out of Rice Krispies? Were they told it was too big? For either of these, I don't see why you
It
could
wasn't
adjust.
very clear. They were just like he was just like they made this connecting Rice Krispie thing. He's like, I don't know. I think that they realized it was gonna be too big.
Yeah.
Like there was some sort of width requirement that they didn't tell us that they knew. And they were like,
Must have
this-
been.
and it must have been. But I don't know why you don't just shave the Rice Krispies. It's like this is what they did on Cake Boss all the time. That's all they did was they would make a giant Rice Krispie treat and then just like cut off things until it looks like fucking Mickey Mouse. Like that's all they fucking did the whole show.
There was no bosses.
Yeah. So
I mean,
Hey.
there's probably like some engineering piece there that we just don't know where it's
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
cut that stuff off and now it's no longer
I
buoyant.
don't know.
But
They covered it in like something, didn't they?
They
So
called it
it's-
like the candy pop lollipop or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some sugar
Good ship
lollipop.
lollipop.
Good ship lollipop.
Not to mention that like the decorations on this thing were just like they put some like starburst on the outside and like made it white or something.
Well,
and then
they
just
took the
literally
giant Rice
plopped-
Krispie and they covered it in like blue food coloring or some sort of blue appearance, which I don't know what it is, and then kind of just stuck some like Jolly Ranchers on the side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did it even have a sail? I don't remember it having a sail. They just put a cake, then they put the cake on it. It was
Yeah.
by far the ugliest one.
There was a lot of ugly boats.
Dude, this was not the ugliest one. This was up there compared to the good boats, but there was a couple of boats that were just looked like nothing.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they did.
All right. Well, spoiler alert, Sierra and Edwin, they gone.
Bye.
Obviously, the way we talked about how bad they did, they're gone.
We gotta make sure it's clear. They put this boat in the what was the Sea of Doom or whatever they called their test site. They put it in. It immediately flips over, and then it immediately cracks in half.
Yeah. It's just
Like the Titanic. Like there's a front half and a back half. What happened?
the host definitely made a Titanic joke too.
Just had to be clear that their boat literally cracked in half. It was amazing.
That this was very entertaining. We knew it was going to be bad. Like looking at it, you're like, that's not going to do anything. We're like, that's either going to sink right away. This is going to sink down or just flip. And it flipped.
And everything, all the above, and broken half.
So we got Taylor and Cindy.
Yep.
Taylor was the engineer. Cindy was the baker. They made a butterfly boat, and they won. It looked really good. They completed the challenge with 4 seconds left. They did hit the side and didn't,
It was a gentle nudge.
gentle
They
nudge on
corrected
the side.
course.
Everybody panicked the hell out of that. Like it just hit a rock and it's like, this is Titanic, it's happening.
Well, they also went first in the test, or at least they
Yeah.
showed it first. So,
Right.
like, I had a similar reaction because we didn't know what to expect, right? And then you saw some of the other garbage follow.
I was like, I think it's not going that fast where it's gonna be like shit. This tears like tissue paper.
there was some fun things happening while they were making their boats. Taylor was like looking at some dough and he went over and was like, what's that smell like? And he like smelled it and like, smells like dough.
Nailed
It smells
it.
like dough. Yeah. And when their boat came out of the oven, it was like cracked in like pieces, and they used some sort of what did they call it? Edible.
It was sugar. It was
They-
some kind of sugar that can turn into glue.
Well, it was like melted down sugar or whatever, and you like get like that candy sugar syrupy kind of texture, right? And then it like basically solidified. I
It
think when
basically
it
turns
hardened.
like a hard lollipop, but like that you can like mold into cracks.
Yeah,
They called it an edible flex seal.
Yeah.
they did not call it that. We called it that.
James called it that.
Oh, is that what you called it?
That's what me and Brian we came
Okay.
up. I'm like, so when this is happening, this looked like, well, it didn't exactly, but you get the idea. If you've ever seen a Flex Seal infomercial, if not, check out the YouTube real quick. This guy's whole stick is you can make a screen door float, right? You spray this thing on, and then it immediately becomes a water sealant. And so that's what basically looks like these folks are doing. They're making this like Flex Seal sort of sugar stuff. And so Brian with the assist, edible Flex Seal, shit. I
Yeah,
forgot
they,
what it
they
called.
called it like edible instant seal or something like that. Like it was weird. I don't care. Edible flex seal is the way to go.
All right, let's talk about Steve and Renee. Renee was the engineer. Steve was the baker. They did a sushi boat, and this was very entertaining
Yes.
because they put this boat in the water, and Renee was so excited. She forgot that she was supposed to be steering the boat.
Come on,
It
Renee.
hit the wall and failed the challenge, and Steve was pissed.
Yeah, but
It was
to
great.
their credit, their boat probably was the most buoyant.
Oh, it was a great boat. It was
Yeah.
a catamaran
Yeah,
made out of chocolate.
excellent boat. Steve looks like very top notch in that crew, but then Renee just bungles the challenge. But I would put my money on them to win the whole show.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I agree. They do look like a strong team.
Yeah.
She just got so excited that like
Right.
it was working, and then she started cheering and forgot that she was responsible for the steering of the boat.
Yeah.
My vote's for Taylor and Cindy. I think they're a pretty good team.
Like his bakery good, like with the caviar of like lavender or whatever it was, like some passion fruit caviar. Like it was most creative. It looked good. It worked good. Like it was great.
So you want to put some sort of money on the line?
Oh, let's put our usual bet. We do a shotgun.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. When are we gonna watch all these episodes? The episodes are out. Like it's not like it's some time.
Yeah, I hope you didn't look it up on Wikipedia.
No, I don't look anything up. I did not.
Watch
That'd be unfair. Let's say, how about this? We can do it within the episode. We can just look it up on Wikipedia.
No,
You're right.
no, we can't spoil the episode.
The series, season.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick Taylor and Cindy, and you got Steve and Renee. Anyone else want in on this?
If
Brian-
I could keep track of these people any better, I would maybe have a better vote. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but like I was trying to like write down like everybody, and it was very difficult.
I got most of the people, but we didn't see some of the teams. I
Yeah,
didn't
they
know.
barely
Yeah,
showed.
that was also it. Like I was trying to learn at that
Fine.
point, and then it was just like rapid fire. Like,
Yeah, that's
so
fine. You don't need to know the people they don't introduce in the show.
James.
no, you do because like just because like they're not good right now doesn't mean they won't get highlighted later.
Yeah, I get it.
I was kind of leaning with Brian on this. Like, I'm a little reluctant to choose because I don't know the other folks might be okay.
We're
They
just
didn't
trying
stand
to have
out.
fun on this podcast, okay? You could just
It's
pick.
true. It's true.
You should definitely pick Mario and Joey. I think they're gonna make it pretty far.
I don't think I'm going to do that.
All right. Let's talk about Randy B and Jacob E. Oh, Randy is the baker and Jacob is the engineer. Sorry, that's my notes. They did some sort of Willy Wonka thing. I think this was some people we didn't really see. I don't know why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Also, I got to pick on you because like the whole show is a Willy Wonka theme, right?
No,
like,
their
what did you
boat.
mean there?
They said their boat was a Willy Wonka thing,
Right.
and
Like
I
that
think
it's
we did
edible?
actually
Yeah.
see theirs.
It was like the team that looked like a mom and son, but they weren't actually mom and son.
We have Shanice and Vanessa.
Miami.
Vanessa was the bacon, the baker, and Shanice was the engineer. They did the party boat,
Part of boat.
and they were the best at the challenge itself. It seemed, other than their boat kind of sank at the end.
Yeah,
They
that
did it
boat
in
was
16 seconds with 16 seconds left.
If that boat was going any longer, that thing was done.
Yeah, that one kind of didn't. We don't know anything about these two boats. Like, we didn't get to see them. Like, we have no
Nothing.
idea.
I definitely got real excited when they said it was a party boat.
I mean, when you build a party boat, you got to go fast. Got to get off the boat before you crash the boat.
So then we have Manuka and Brandy. Brandy was the baker. Manuka was the engineer. They did some sort of Viking ship. I don't really remember anything about them other than their ship just kind of also sank immediately.
They also had the Viking hat cake, didn't they?
Yeah,
As a
yeah.
dessert?
They were the Viking hat, like cake pop things.
Yeah, that looks fun.
Okay, they're not the ones with the. Who built the one with the like Kraken sea creature
That's
thingy?
the next one.
Okay, here we go.
We'll get to them. We got Rudolfo and Sarah. Sarah's the engineer. Rudolfo was the baker. They did like a pirate ship. They had some sort of sausage casing that they tried to like make their cake more buoyant,
Crazy.
which
Very
did
creative.
not work at
But
all.
you gotta applaud their thing, and the judges like commented on this as well. So this is one of the teams that did actually do a test run before the main event,
Yep.
and they quickly realized that their ship was not totally symmetrical, and it was leaning to one side or the other, and they were worried about balance. So very creatively, they're like, okay, we need something to add some buoyancy to this thing. What are we gonna do? They scour the kitchen. They're like, sausage casings.
Sausage.
Everyone's first natural reaction when you want a sausage casing with your cake.
I was surprised that they were even in the kitchen, but I guarantee you, like somebody else said, look, you can feel these there. Good to go.
I gotta say, like, it came out looking pretty
It
decent.
looked
for, like,
amazing.
Like
Yeah.
they colored it and painted it and it looked like a sea creature. That was amazing. I thought
Bravo.
Yeah,
it didn't really seem like it functioned.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's going to help you at all. And thinking about this, I wonder if they only had one chance to test their boats.
Mm.
Because like, there's no way this team wouldn't have been like, oh, let me go test this again, right? And they didn't. Clearly.
No, for sure.
So
Yeah,
it must
maybe you
have
get
been
one
one of
test.
those hidden rules that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
That would make way more sense. But why would the production crew do that? Like, why wouldn't you let them like this? Honestly, the amount of failures in this case was just too high. Like this challenge is either too hard, or you didn't let them test, you didn't give them enough time, something.
I agree. I think you want one, maybe two sinkings. You don't want half.
You don't want two successes.
Right.
Or like there was like two successes and like one or two that like, they floated. But these are 9 teams. Like more than half of them just sunk right away.
Yeah, that should not have happened. Like, I still kind of give a pass. Like, you could make it to the end. You just didn't make it in 45 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
I
give you
think it's
half
impressive
pass
if
there.
I think it's impressive if you A, float.
Yeah.
B, you actually move, like the sailing actually functions at all. And then 3, you complete the course. Right? Like that's the way to judge it.
I feel like if I was doing this, I would probably just make it so bottom heavy it just sinks right away and it doesn't flip over. Like we're looking good. Look at that boat over there. That boat looks terrible. That boat ain't going. No boat's flipping right over. Good to go. We're making next week. Like that's all you really need to do. Like you're just like at the beginning of this, you're like, I just got to make it next week, right?
Yep.
And that is like, don't fail catastrophically. Like that's it.
I mean, it's got to be the rule with like any of these kind of competitive shows, right? Like you got to survive the first week.
It depends on the level of competition we're talking about. You're talking about like final table, like no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be top of your game. You're talking about nailed it, whatever. Like who gives a fuck? Like there's not even. Who
A
cares
lot of
if
people love
Who cares
nailed
if
it.
you? Who cares if you are breathing? In
You're
that
gonna
show?
lose our listeners, man. People love Nailed It.
Well, you're keeping them strong. That's
I'm like the Emmy Association is.
it is literally unbelievable that they've been nominated 3 years in a row. Like
Like,
literally unbelievable.
The popular tide is against you here, man.
It's just gross. All right, so that's what all the people.
Yeah.
The only other minutia I think that is semi interesting
Give it.
is that they announced the winner via some sort of 3D printing pancake thing.
Terrible.
It was really bad. It was
So
like-
bad.
It's like somebody at Netflix would have been like, we need to make this thing more like it just seems like a note of like how can we make announcing the winner more fun, and this is fucking not fun.
It would make
it's
sense
so stupid.
if it was sponsored. You'd be like, and now the winner brought to you by Kingsford Grills, Kingsford new pancake maker with Kingsford dough, and it was just let's go to this other camera.
Wasn't it like it automatically covers the icing and whatever pattern you want? Kind of
No,
like it
was
spells
a
it out,
3D
right?
printer.
It was right, yeah.
They said it was
Yeah.
an edible 3D printer, but it looked like a pancake 3D printer. Like you would just
Well,
it
they
would just
put,
make
like-
like a
yeah.
it would make like you could put your name, you could put James, and it would print it out, and then the griddle would heat up and like turn it into a pancake.
I mean, technically, I think it was literally just a 3D printer. Instead of putting hot plastic, they put in pancake mix.
I've definitely seen some sort of pancake 3D printer before.
Yeah,
It's
like-
just it's like not all that interesting.
No. Well, it's like not even 3D because like it's just 2D, right? But it just does a design you tell it to.
Yeah, it's more of like what are those like laser cutter kind of
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
Where it's more of like a 2D but like looks 3D. Yeah.
How long do you think they waited for that thing to print? Like an hour?
Zoom, zoom,
and
zoom.
Then at the end of the episode, I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are. Is that the host is like, all right, now everyone, next challenge right now, and he hits his button, and everyone runs to their TV screen. Do you
Hate it.
Like this is a 9-hour challenge,
Right.
And there's
Terrible.
no way they waited to the next day to like taste this baked goods. Really?
No,
Slaves. Slaves.
I think you do, because I think that like some of this is just like, hey, let's let things like settle and then like test it.
No.
I think Brian might be on. I
No, it's
I
not.
don't
You
think
don't
it's
want
one day.
day old donuts. You don't want
Day
day old ganache. Okay.
But you're telling me so like the first day of this show is like a 10-hour day. So they show up. They're
Oh,
like,
it's a 12-hour
Oh,
day.
it's like a 15-hour. Like,
right. It
yeah,
must be an insane
Yeah.
amount of time.
You're coming in, you're getting makeup done, you're coming in to do this challenge, it's 9 hours long. Then you're spending 2 hours like testing these things, and then you're going home.
Okay. Did you also see how fresh they were during this testing? Come on.
They were not fresh. That's my data point.
They weren't? I thought they were like, they didn't look like really dirty at all.
They looked beat up relative to like TV Shine. Again, like it's not like that. Not like they're terrible. Like not to
No.
disparage it, but like
It
no,
was like they've been working for 9
they
hours.
both they've been working for 9-10 hours near an oven, near baked goods. Like also their aprons were dirty, their clothes were dirty. Like you think they're going through the effort to preserve their clothes overnight, so then they put it back on, it's dirty again.
The apron's super easy though. You just hang it up and you put it back on.
But the clothing was too like.
I think that Netflix has got to like, okay, we're going to do the shot where we say it's next, and you go run over there, and then we'll cut to when then you guys go home and you come back
Yes.
the next day. and
100%.
Maybe
That's
that's how long
9
it took
hours
for the
long.
3D printer to go.
We'll announce the winner the next tomorrow. Come in your old dirty clothes.
Like they said, all right, next challenge starts. They never at any point explain what the hell the challenge is. So everyone's just standing around looking at each other like, all
Well,
right,
that's
cool.
That's how they did the original challenge. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
challenge starts. You have to run to your station, and it's on
Oh,
it's
you're
on the
right.
screen.
You open your email and
Yeah, you got to open the giant whiteboard thingy.
What's our password again? No.
But it was clear to like, Netflix is trying to do that. Cut into the next episode.
but they even fucked that up.
Yeah.
Like there
What
were
do you
other
mean?
shows where it just like immediately ran in seamlessly.
Well, I
and-
don't have autoplay on, so
No,
it probably would have.
No, because it did roll into the next
did,
one.
yeah.
It was like play episode. Like it had that marker. It would still have that marker. It would just hold it at a certain point. It started later.
It was programmed in at the wrong time.
That's fine. Let's do some questions.
'Kay.
Who is the worst human being?
Oh, easy. Easy.
I have no idea.
Oh, really?
I think
shocked
you-
nobody,
I
like-
think you got to say
Yeah,
who
you-
the
you
easy
gotta
worst
say
human
it.
being is.
Renee. She's at the controls. She forgets she's at the controls.
No, that's not the worst
I
person.
mean, I feel like
I would
that's
rather go with the other dude who's just like beating her up. Like he saw other boats fucking sink. There's no way they lost.
I mean, it's not that Renee's a bad person, but it's like,
my
come
my
on,
no-
Renee, you had a job.
My nomination would be Edwin because he failed his job so hard.
Fair.
Like he was the engineer of the failing team, and the engineering on that boat was like third grade level. It was so bad. It was like it looks like a boat. I'm sure it'll work. And no, there's no.
Yeah.
To your point, like at like a third grade level, like I think what you're really hitting at is that it wasn't a creative design by any stretch of the means. It was in the shape of a boat. It was out of one material, and that was it. Like there was no other
There
like.
was no way
yeah.
there was no way that boat was ever going to be a boat. It wasn't a boat. There was no design to be a boat. It was just like if somebody drew a thing on a board, it was like, let's make it out of Rice Krispies. It'll work.
It basically looks like a coffin. They drop it in the
But
water.
it was a solid block of Rice Krispies,
Yeah.
and you put a cake on top, and you expect that thing to float.
I'm still holding with Renee because Edwin just seems not competent at this challenge. Renee was very competent, very, very good engineering.
Maybe it's the producers that picked Edwin. Who knows? My vote's for Edwin.
Yeah.
Brian, who's your vote?
I was gonna
You
vote.
can vote for whoever you want.
I was gonna vote for the judge that came up with the term bacon and engineering, whatever. like
Baconeering.
like we're confused about bacon. I can barely pronounce
It's
this
his
word.
brand. That's not like it's fine. I don't agree. James, you have to decide. You have to make the deciding vote.
The problem is like all the people on the show just kind of blur together. So like I don't remember anything really distinctive. I don't love the host, but like they're not the worst. It's just to Noah's point, they're pretty neutral and they don't add anything. So I didn't particularly like the host. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So no one gets to the worst human being vote because we all have somebody different.
No, I'll switch it to
They're all fine.
to Edwin.
Oh,
And there it is, Edwin.
Well, yeah, I mean I agree. Like of the
Oh.
two, definitely the Rice Krispie boat guy
Yeah. Right.
was
Sorry,
way worse.
Edwin. Sorry.
So-
Burn.
Renee wasn't bad. She
It's-
just got too excited and forgot, and like next thing you know,
It's also a sliding scale, Edwin. It's not like you're the worst human being of all the reality shows I've ever watched. Just this one,
No.
I think you were a little overmatched. You know.
of people I've seen try to engineer a boat out of food, you did terrible.
All right. Is this the apex or a downgrade for the host?
Apex.
I don't know. This magician dude seems like this isn't helping his brand in any way, and it's not really his show.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about him.
Yeah, that's who we're
I guess-
talking about. He's the
okay.
host. The other people are
Wait,
judges, Brian.
He was the magician was the host. I thought he was a judge.
No, he was the host.
Okay, never mind.
The
Nope,
judge
downgrade.
is the judge you hate.
Yeah,
He's a judge. Host, guy making bad jokes.
yeah. Okay, so
And I think this is a downgrade.
I got them confused. Yeah, I agree. It's downgrade.
Let's talk about.
Oh wow! So, just to make you guys feel worse about your Edwin choice, he works at a nonprofit that helps create open source ventilators for underserved communities. So, all of you that voted for Edwin as the worst person, try to sleep tonight.
On this show,
The worst, as I clarified, the worst person at making a boat out of food.
He sang in the Memorial Church Choir at Stanford University.
I'm just
oh
saying
my god,
he let down his partner, and that you know
Oh
that's
no,
what happens.
I get it. I just want to.
That's fine. You can turn the screw. Would this show be better as a Quibi? Brian, go.
no. I maybe would understand things a little bit better because you actually need to put things in digestible chunks. But I don't think it'd be better as a Quibi.
This show as a Quibi is just Andrew's Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the show as a Quibi would have been. It's just
Yeah.
like a professional making some weird thing out of food, and you get to see it made in an action. It's like his YouTube video. Like that's what that is. Let's do drinking rules. Brian, you got a drinking rule?
Drink every time somebody fails a challenge. Like, just straight up fails it. Because I think it's going to happen a lot during this show.
I think you should drink every time they go over the design of their challenge, of their like whatever they're building.
I have a hard mode one.
Okay.
Every time you hear the word baconeering,
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one. No,
be warned, be warned. It's a hard mode.
I don't
though.
think it's that hard.
There must have been at least 30, 40 of that.
I know there wasn't. I go 15.
Okay. Use caution.
Every
Noah?
time you hear a science term that you don't understand.
I mean, like a science term, that could be hard mode because there's a lot of sciencey stuff going on.
You have to not understand it.
What about just any term is regular mode, science term is hard mode? Like there's boating terms, baking terms, a lot of terms getting tossed around.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I kind of want to come up with a drinking rule for the ingredients used. So, like, if chocolate's used in one boat, like, just drink. But maybe if, like...
There's chocolate and ganache and, I don't know, pistachios.
Yeah, like, pistachios could be, like, 3 drinks.
You should come up with a list and post it on our Twitter, Brian. Anytime these ingredients are used in a reality show, this is how many drinks you have to drink.
If you use Flex Seal, finish your drink.
Oh man. What about like when they're using some sort of alcohol in the baking stuff? So there's a lot of like rum
Oh,
cakes and
yeah,
things that were
yeah.
kind of getting tossed around.
That's great.
That's a good one. I had one and now I lost it. So I think that's it for drinking rules. What do we have any? Is there any minutia people want to talk about? Brian?
The fucking rocket scientist on the panel is, like, trying to explain why one of the boats flipped over. And I was like, why are you doing this? Like, this is just... we know why it flipped over. Come on.
The center of gravity, dude.
Yeah, but
You didn't like that?
he took way longer to explain center of gravity than just what Chris did.
There's one thing I want to bring up before we get to ratings is that as we've talked about the show, notice how we've talked 0 things about the baked goods in the show, because I think we all like, there's a certain person that likes a baking show and there's a certain person that could give 2 fucks because you can't taste it. Like it is just like, it's one of those things about cooking shows. It's just like, I can't watch because it just either A, makes me super hungry, and B, just leaves me super unsatisfied because I have no idea why people are kicked off due to baking. Like I have no idea, or cooking. Like baking is a little bit better because like there's a lot more going involved than just like cooking a dish that could be vastly different to what they describe it as. Like, but at the end of the day, it's like I can't taste it. You describing it. This person didn't even describe what the hell these fucking things tasted like. She just complained about things in the baking, and it was just like the baking part of this is the worst part of the show, the weakest part.
I have to wonder though, because I with a lot of the like food genre shows in general, I find personally that the more I can relate to whatever the type of food is, the more, obviously the more I can relate, the more I can understand, the more I can like kind of get that sense. For me, like I guess the two extremes is like I really like barbecuing and grilling and like cooking a lot of meats and things like that. I know nothing about baking, and so I actually really struggle with like a show like this where like or like the Great Bake Off or any of those kind of things, right? Where like I just don't know anything that's involved with like the chemistry of baking or like what all these things are. And so when they do stuff, I have no idea if it's impressive or not impressive. And so that's actually for me, like it's not just like, oh, I can't taste it. It's the fact that like I just can't relate at like a personal level, which makes it harder when you also can't taste it or like have those other
it's
inputs.
just like they're getting voted off or you're rating them on food I can't taste. You can't describe well enough.
Right.
And you know,
but some people like are really into baking, like might know about it. Like similarly, like I like watching like barbecue shows or something because like I can relate to it.
I
still
know,
can't taste
I'm
it,
sure
right?
there's like certain people love this kind of shit. Like,
Oh, for sure. That's what I'm saying. I think
it's
like if you're into
just-
baking, I think you'll have a much better shot at like kind of appreciating that part of this a lot more. But at least for somebody that wasn't into baking, this was a really good show, and the fact that like there was a whole nother angle to it,
Oh, yeah.
which wasn't just
it's just
that.
you could just ignore that whole part. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a solution. I think we just need to start baking for each other. James is gonna make you a cake. No, I'm gonna make you a cake. Chris will make you a cake. Everybody's
Okay.
getting
But
a cake.
Brian, that still doesn't solve the problem that I won't know anything about the baking. Like it's not like I've never ate cake before.
So
I've never had any
I'm gonna
bake-
start learning about baking.
I've
You
never
can do
had
your own
any
thing. If you want to start baking
baked
cakes and stuff.
I mean, that's where good judges come in, right? Because obviously there's tons of food shows, so it's not that it's like a niche audience that likes food shows. No, it's a mass appeal genre. It's that the judges have to have articulate language to tell the audience what they can tangibly taste.
No, yeah. I mean, the thing is, we don't watch a lot of cooking shows because I don't think in our group of podcasters really enjoy them because I think this very reason of like, we watch random shows and a lot of them have bad judges. And we're like, I feel like this judge is probably great, but they cut I have a feeling they cut a lot of what she was saying about them or wasn't given good direction to be like, okay, imagine you're at home and you can't actually taste this thing, describe it and what is good and bad about it, not just what is bad about it.
Right. It's a hard thing to do, right? Like, just because you're a good, maybe an amazing chef or baker, doesn't mean you're going to be good in this type of thing, or at least need a lot of practice. Like, I watched Hardcore, the last season of Top Chef, and it's like they do a great job of communicating what's being made. So it's definitely doable, but no, they've had now 20 seasons of that, like practicing it. They need to give this woman some pointers or some more time, whatever it is.
I don't know. I didn't really particularly think the last season of Top Chef did a very good job with that either. But that's just me.
Whoa.
I think I have a hard time with the cooking thing because, especially when you're talking about a Top Chef or Final Table, because they're using crazy ingredients. I'm like, how am I supposed to know what foie gras on a crab, on a seashell snake cracker? Like, that doesn't fucking mean anything to me.
It means like my past 2 meals.
Like,
But no, I think that's just like well, we're hitting the head, right? Which is like, I think if you're somebody that's into it, can appreciate it. Like, if you like going to some of these fancy restaurants and trying something, like maybe you can relate in that way. Like, you might not be making it, but that's kind of to my Uber point, which is I think the more you can relate at some level to what the show is like judging or the criterion is, then I think like generally the more fun you'll have with it. And if you're somebody that doesn't like baking or any of this or engineering or anything, probably not the show for you.
oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean,
there's definitely a criteria of like, you got to like the engineering and / or the baking to really
Like, to zoom out even another level, like anything that's going to try to entertain you, that is putting you in a different world that you can't directly relate to, if you can't make that bridge such that you draw someone into that other thing you're trying to communicate, whether it's like Ted Lasso and like a premiership team, right? Or watching Batman chase some people or someone go to jail, like you failed at your storytelling in this job. Like that's the whole point of TV. Draw someone in. It's not to tell them what they already know. Unless you're watching Fox News and just trying to tell them things that they already think.
All right. Let's move on. Let's do one of our last questions. Let's talk about production schedule. It's our favorite. It's a favorite thing to talk about. So there's nine teams. So there's 8 episodes, probably 7 or 8 episodes. So what do you think? Like a challenge every day? Thing done in a week?
They're so long.
It's probably 2 weeks because they're probably not working on the weekends.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough. I don't really know. Do they work on the weekends like normally for like TV or movie productions?
I think they'll work whenever they can.
That is a good question for production. I don't know what like if you especially like I'm thinking movies now. Like if you're on location, I don't think you're taking like a weekend. I think it's just like all right, here's the work schedule.
I mean, the only thing that would happen it's a lot of union jobs, so you just got to look at what their union contracts are, and that's gonna whatever's like the tightest there, right? That's gonna dictate.
Yeah, like there's a mix of both. It's definitely like, hey, union limitations, and then also like we're in this area, like we might only have like a certain time for the weather. Like we gotta fucking do this.
So 8 episodes.
Yeah, let's look too.
So it's definitely more than a week. I'd say
Yeah.
2 weeks.
It's probably just like, hey, you do the challenge one day, the next day is like, okay, judgment, and then then you have the baking sheet, print out your victor.
No,
and then
these guys are
third day.
firm on the it's all in the same day, Brian.
Yeah, it's all.
I was with you
No.
originally, but I think I'm coming around because Noah's good catch around the clothing and all that.
I think it's all one day.
Yeah, I
The,
gotta
the
go
only
see that.
thing is like, do you give them a day to like rest and relax for the next day to like just like make a better show? I think there is something to say about like
It's a long
not
day.
working 15 hours every day
right. Yeah.
for like especially something like this where it's like seems mentally taxing. I'd imagine.
Oh, very much.
Yeah, being that creative and like putting all your effort into this stuff and making all these things from scratch, like it's no easy feat.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to give them a day to rest.
I don't know if they have to.
Yeah.
But they should.
I mean, because also these are your character, like these are your actors. If they're not there, you're not gonna get a lot of content.
Yeah, they're the talent, right? Like they
Yeah.
are the content. If they're not in good shape for this, then like yeah, you have nothing good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So like we're thinking somewhere like 2 weeks ish, I guess.
think it's
Ballpark.
2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks.
Actually, so we have a proxy of the Lego show, right? Similar length challenges, right? It's like 10 hours, 15 hours. Like,
they
do
have
the
some.
same.
They're like last challenge is like 24 hours.
Right. And so the Lego show is about a 2 to 3 month production schedule. I think it's closer to 3 months, and they have about 10 episodes, give or take.
So
yeah, I mean,
they have
I
like
guess they could do-
12 teams, so I think they
12
had like 11 or 12
Yeah.
episodes.
But like it's they're in about a 3 month stretch, so it gives you a sense, right, of like how they're doing.
how do you know that?
So I got into the Lego show. They went to their Instas and seeing like all the interviews they did, and
Okay. All right, so you've done your homework.
yeah, like because they hung out a lot outside the show, and so you would see them like going hiking together, and then you can kind of like piece together a timeline. And then also they talked about like how long they're away from their families in the show, which also is a very clear.
I haven't
signal.
finished season 2 yet. It's on my list sometime. Anyway, let's get to our final question. We have a ranking, so we do a stack ranking system: top, middle, bottom, third, based on compared to other reality shows. Generally, what we've seen. Brian, what do you got for me?
I think it's top of the middle. I think that this is a very interesting show. It combines 2 awesome things, and it follows Lego Master. I'm probably gonna watch a couple more episodes.
So you're saying it's middle third?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's floating between like the bottom of the top and like middle. Like I can,
I just want like okay. That's
yeah.
I'd be interested to see your rankings this season if this is a middle third.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all.
Whoa, you
Whoa.
got some real judgment coming in here.
digging
Oh,
hard.
just stack ranking system. You're supposed to put them in equal buckets.
Well, he put it at top of the middle.
He's calling you
Yeah.
out, Brian. We're gonna see how this ends up at the end of the tally.
Yeah,
I feel like there's another beer bet here coming.
No, what do you got?
I'm with Brian. Middle, top of the middle. I like the baconeering concept. I'm excited for the future of baconeering. I'm excited for the future of this show. I think the first episode was really poorly done in many ways, but I think the idea has promise. So excited to check out a few more, and then if it keeps going downhill, then it'll definitely drop to bottom of the middle, but definitely not bottom.
All right, James, what do you got for me?
Okay, so I think all in all, the show's fine. Like, it's all right. I don't think it's necessarily for me. I won't particularly be watching anymore, but just know the caveat is like I'm not super into the food competition reality, generally speaking, and I know absolutely nothing about baking, and I'm not super interested in it. Having said all that, I think it was decently produced. It's put together. It looks nice. There were some fun moments during it. All of to say, I think it's dead in the middle, right in the middle of the sea.
All right. I think it's easily a top third show. This season's been terrible. We've watched some garbage. This show is watchable. I was like, oh, we can watch that next
Wow,
episode.
the bar is low.
Oh, the bar is very low. 100%. Like, we're talking like we started the season with like Hall of Fame level Taskmaster, and then we fucking watch freaking garbage. Like,
been
Metal
Ego.
Shop Masters, garbage. Like, we're talking like this is top third. This is very watchable, very entertaining. I love seeing like crazy challenges, like with art side and like some engineering side, and I love to see people like do those kind of challenges. The food part I could give or take. It's not my thing, but like everything else about the show is fun. I liked it. I thought that, yeah, just interesting challenges and seeing what people come up with. Great, sign me up.
I gotta say, this was a curveball for me, Chris. I thought you were going bottom of the bottom, like based on your comments.
What? No.
I mean, sorry, not bottom of the bottom, but bottom third.
With his reaction, he was throwing us.
Yes.
You were
No,
on Brian.
I thought he like was gonna do top. He was like not angry at all during this show. Like
Yeah.
you can tell immediately when it comes out so hot.
I feel like the intro of the show really gives it away because this is one where I feel like this is the
Yeah.
first time.
What? Yeah, I mean,
Well, this was horrible.
there's usually you could tell when it's bottom of the bottom. Like there's no shadowing. But I mean, we're talking about complaints about the show. Like sometimes what I like about the show doesn't come through as well. So here you have it. I like the challenge. I like seeing these people make boats. I like seeing them fail. That was great. I wish less people failed, but that's not my problem. That's not my fault. It's another thing where I think the show where Netflix producers aren't very good. It's because like it's kind of a production problem that so many people failed. But I think it worked fine for this show, whereas like Metal Shop Masters not work.
And that's like an easily like tweakable thing over like the course of the season for the show. Like they can adjust the competitions. Like, oh, maybe that first one. All right, let's see.
Yeah,
know,
we'll see.
we'll see what they do.
I mean,
Keep us tuned.
if people keep failing like this, I don't know if it's really that bad. I don't think it'll ever end up being like Metal Shop Masters where the final challenge, like somebody like literally doesn't complete the challenge and it's a 1-on-1. Like that's a terrible way to end your show.
Right. But Chris, I also took a look. Like we're on episode 15. Like we still have another 35 episodes to go in this season. I don't think it'll balance it out like right
saying
now.
that this was a very watchable. I thought it was enjoyable. It's got the format I like of like an artsy skill that has like there's really some engineering challenge focus to it. Yeah, I don't think you can like those are the kind of shows that I like. Like so that's top third. All right, Brian, you got a shout out this week?
Seinfeld's on Netflix. Just go rewatch it.
Except the pothole episode.
Yeah.
It got cut out.
They got cut.
Can't watch the bottle.
You can't see the pothole.
What happened
Noah,
to the pothole?
They did like some aspect stuff, like they did with like
They
old,
zoomed
like,
in.
it's
Simpson shows.
16:9, but the original is 4:3, so you can't actually see the pothole in the pothole episode.
That's funny.
Noah, you got a shout out this week?
Yeah, I'm sure I've shouted this out before. I'm sure other people have talked about this before. I'm sure other people are watching this as we speak, doing things.
While they're listening to this.
Yeah, Ted Lasso season 2. I'm a little bit behind, but I think I have like 20 minutes left of the last episode. Always a joy. Go watch Ted Lasso if you have not. And also Saturday Night Live is back on a very strong first episode with Kim Kardashian hosting. She did quite a job. Very good. Very impressed.
James, you got a shout out this week?
Yeah. So I got turned on to the show over the weekend. Another Netflix show, Squid Game.
Skip ahead if you haven't seen Squid Game. Some spoiler talk about to happen.
Anybody watching Squid Game?
I haven't watched it, but I hear everyone going crazy about
I
it.
watched one episode.
I finished it.
Brian finished it. So I finished it, but I'm still confused by the last episode. So I'm like rewatching the last one to like make sure I actually got it because I think I sort of like it was too late at night, that kind of thing. But anyways, it's if you're not familiar, so the trailers are on Netflix. It's like one of the trending top whatever in the U.S. right now things. It's a Korean show, I believe, and I believe it has a dub. But the dub is actually mostly decent to the point that it's not like crazy distracting. There's a couple of voice actors that you're like, ooh, the intonation is like not quite right, like whatever. But for the most part, it doesn't like take away from the show, and I think it's pretty good. It's more of this like the general premise is there's some people that are hard off for money. They really need some money, and this like Squid Game thing is basically like abduct, so like slight into it. I'm not gonna give it away. I'm just gonna give away that like there's some people that need money and they end up in this situation, and there is a very extreme situation with a lot of killing that happens, and that's Squid Game. And the whole like thing of the show is like figuring out like why is this happening, who's behind it, like what's going on. So that's the whole thing.
You know, I didn't know it was about, but I saw it trending. I really thought it was Hunger Games with squids.
It is definitely like Hunger Games esque.
Yeah,
But,
I
like,
really
but
don't
it's
want to
like-
give too much away. Like, I will say one more minor thing, minor spoilers if you're really caring. Is it's based on like childhood games of Korea. So like the whole premise is like these adults are playing these children's games, but like the penalties are you're dead. You just get killed. So like that's kind of like all the setup. You really need to get into it, and it doesn't really give that
But
much
the
away in
whole
the first
episode-
episode.
That's fine.
But the whole first episode is like the setup to that. It's like
Right.
you say that, but that like spoils like the whole first episode, and the first episode's pretty long.
That's
So
fair.
you really got to get.
I mean, I haven't watched anything, but I'm still gonna watch.
I only
it.
watched the
It'll
first
be
episode.
interesting. Yeah.
So like I know that point, but I hesitate to tell people what it's about. It's better.
It's kind of hard to
just-
describe like
It's
what the
better
hell
to
it
go
is.
back 30 seconds, not listen to what we say,
For sure.
and just go in and watch it. I'm watching Midnight Mass. I'm like 3 episodes in. It's
Is that
a
a church service?
It's a Netflix show. It's made by the same guy that did Doctor Sleep and Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor. So it's like this like horror. It's a slow burn kind of Stephen King-esque horror show. It's pretty good so far. I'm waiting for it to pick up. So tentative. I hear it's good by the end. So we'll see how it all pans out.
I mean, Christmas comes after it, right?
Christmas.
I forget it.
Midnight Mass at Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Wouldn't Christmas already happened at that point?
Isn't Midnight Mass
No.
on Christmas Eve? Like
Yeah,
going into
yeah.
Christmas?
Yeah, so it'd
Yeah.
be Christmas Eve midnight would be Christmas.
Yeah, so when it's over, then you got Christmas. So it pays off.
No, when you're in midnight mass, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're not getting your gift in the church. You leave the church. You get
Sure,
your
you do.
gifts.
You get your gift from Jesus. Jesus comes and gives you his body and blood. Don't you know that?
Nobody cares about that part. They want their toy car.
I 100% care about that. I want that my cracker and wine, yo.
Give me the wafer.
All right. On that note, you can find us on Twitter at WhoPutThisOn. You can find us on Facebook.com/WhoPutThisOn. You can leave us questions, suggestions at WhoPutThisOn@gmail.com. We'll see you guys next time. Brian, how goofy are you?
Goofy? I'm as tall as Goofy, so actually no, Goofy's taller. He's got more Goofy on me, but I'm pretty close.